On a recent trip to Southern California, I had the opportunity to sit down with Ross Blocher of the podcast Oh No, Ross and Carrie. We talked about how the podcast came to be and some of his favorite episodes. Okay, so this is Jess from The Friendly Atheist. I'm here with Ross Blocher.
Hello.
Hi. So we're here in a hotel room in Pasadena, California, because I'm here on a weird trip. And Ross deigned to hang out with us, so thank you for joining us, first of all.
Oh, well, you're very welcome. Thanks for having me, and welcome to Southern California.
Thank you. It's warm.
Yes.
And not Chicago.
This is as cold as it gets here.
I'm going to live here forever. I love it. So I'm a huge fan of your podcast, so I would really love to hear the genesis of it. Like, how did you and Carrie start it?
Yeah, so our show is Oh No, Ross and Carrie, and we invest...
If I was a good host, I would have led with that.
We investigate fringe science. Oh my goodness. I did a whole printout of like all the things we've done because I was going to use it as a reference, and of course I left it. Whatever. I will try to remember everything I've done in the show.
I'm a professional, so I really wish you were also a professional.
Right? That would help. One of us should be. Yeah, both Carrie and I met each other at the Center for Inquiry Los Angeles, and I had found that from listening to podcasts. I remember hearing about it on Point of Inquiry. I had already been part of the Skeptic Society, and so I met her at CFI, and we would be going to lectures together. And I think we got to know each other best at the book club meeting. I'm still part of the book club there. And, you know, we'd kind of get each other's references where other people didn't.
Yeah.
And we're like, hey, fellow young people. Because it was still a time in, I think, skepticism, atheism, where...
Old white guys.
Yeah.
I'm familiar.
Fair amount of that. And I like old white guys. And someday I will be one, too. But, yeah, it was just, you know, we kind of hit it off on certain cultural things. And then... what really started the podcast is that one time, I think it was Carrie who'd found out about this Kabbalah meeting going on at the Kabbalah Center, and you know you could go learn what the importance was of the moon rising over Taurus or whatever it was.
Who doesn't know that though?
Right? Yeah, exactly. And so she said, "Does anyone want to go to this?" And I said, "Oh yeah, that sounds awesome." And that's how I got into this whole skepticism thing because I was interested in people who disagreed with me. Even when I was a Christian. So I thought, oh, this will be great fun. And so we went to that, but no one else wanted to go. And when we got back, they were immediately besetting us with all these questions. Oh, well, what did they say? And did you ask them if blah, blah, blah? And so we tell them all these stories, and we're thinking like, okay, well, what's wrong with you? You wanted to know this, but you didn't want to come along?
Right.
And then, you know, that's when the little light bulb shoots up. And I remember Carrie at one point saying like, hey, you know what? This actually could make a show. And I said, I've been thinking about that too. And already at the time, there was such a preponderance of shows on skepticism, atheism, secularism.
I'm familiar.
Yes.
I'm a part of that.
That's right. Yeah, we know that intimately. And so that was a hesitation, which was just, you know, do we need another one? I already listened to a bunch of them. Has to be something new. And so I think what was unique about our approach in investigating fringe science, paranormals, supernatural, is that we would do it firsthand. We'd go in there ourselves, and as the tagline says, so you don't have to.
That's so most recently, or the most recent episode I've heard, I'm sure you're doing other stuff. Are you struggling with that water bottle?
I'm just trying to do it quietly and slowly.
No, well, we will let off that one. So most recently you went to see the Long Island medium whose name is...
Teresa Caputo.
Caputo, and her hair.
Yeah, well, it's hard not to see her hair.
So I feel like... So I've listened to your whole podcast. I feel like that was one of the first times that you seemed like...
Well, I got mad.
Yeah, you were not...
Yeah, it's funny. I had a few friends who listened to my show for the first time when they saw her come up as a topic.
A thing they've heard of. Like, I guess I'll get on with this.
And, yeah, and they were saying, no, I thought they were fair criticisms and blah, blah, blah. And I was kind of relieved by that because I thought that was really the time where I'd been the most assertive in saying, you know, she is preying on people.
Yeah. Like, she's a shitty human.
Yeah.
We need to bring that to people's attention.
Yeah, for anyone who's not familiar with Teresa Caputo, she is on TLC. She has a TV show where she, just approaches people in supermarkets and wherever.
Yeah, is that the conceit of her show? She just, like, walks around to people?
Yeah, in odd locations. And then she's not what you would expect from the stereotypical psychic. So she's not wearing the the deep makeup with the shawl or anything like that.
Lack of shawls.
Yeah, she is this Long Island woman with very loud voice. Anyway, she'll come by and all of a sudden she's communicating with your dead relatives. And so we got to see her do her shtick kind of firsthand. And it was awful because, one thing that she was doing that will immediately buttress my position is telling the families of victims of suicide, people who'd killed themselves, that their loved one did not kill him or herself. We didn't mention on the show, but there was one guy and he'd shot himself, and she said, but I feel it wasn't a clean shot, so they're describing, that's true, it kind of, went off center. Yeah, the trajectory of the bullet. And she's saying, because I feel like he was just cleaning it. I think, no one cleans their gun and shoots themselves through the head. I mean, or at least that has to be incredibly rare. I should be careful what I say. There might be people listening.
Regardless, she doesn't know.
No, right.
Regardless of whether that statistically is likely.
What a horrible thing to say.
She doesn't know.
And it turned out with one family, it was a hanging, someone who'd hung themselves, and she was saying that, or hanged themselves, so I guess it's always hanged with the
I literally thought that. I was like, how shitty would it be to correct his grammar? And so I didn't.
Oh, okay. No. Correct my grammar at any time, and I'll try to jump in and correct my grammar, too. But she was telling that family as well that, this man had not meant to hang himself. He had thoughts at the last minute and, slipped or something. And they were going to his memorial the next day. That's sick.
So
that's sick stuff.
Super recent. Well, I think the one that sort of got under my skin the most was somebody had cancer, they died of cancer, and she was like, there's no cancer in your genes.
Oh, yeah, she was telling a daughter whose mother had died of breast cancer, but I don't sense it in you, you're fine, you don't need to worry about it. She actually told her, you don't need to get the checkups. And we wanted to go down and just smack.
So I feel like it's justifiable at some point to say, your loved one didn't mean to commit suicide. That's horseshit, but arguably it could give peace of mind to the survivors. But when you're don't worry, you'll never get cancer, bye, that's...
Yeah, and that's not her decision to make about,
right,
how people are going to come to closure or deal with their grief. But, as we argued, I think making people think that their loved one is still there, floating around them, even changing their opinion on certain things over time, it just doesn't strike me as ethical. Yeah. To say the very least. Yeah, so usually we take a very kind of cool observer standpoint.
You do. I'll give you... you certainly seem to go, and we're whatever. We're not here to... I mean, obviously you're here to some extent to judge them, but you're not trying to call somebody out right away.
Yeah. And we didn't we didn't get up and yell at her or anything like that.
Which would have been satisfying.
Sure, for us maybe.
So do you have a favorite thing that you did, episode you recorded?
It always comes back to the Mormons. They were really such an important part of our... That was
a fascinating thing. And for listeners who haven't listened to their podcast, which I would certainly recommend...
Thank you.
You guys went through and were baptized into the Mormon Church.
Yes.
Which is bonkers. That is a lot to delve into.
Yeah. We went through, 6 months. It wasn't every single day, but pretty regular. 6 months of meeting with our missionaries. And it was enough times and over enough time that the young elders would be swapped out, and so we'd have kind of these new recruits coming in every now and then, and they'd bring in backup because we were asking tough questions, and we got more and more inculcated into the Mormon religion, and then were baptized, like you say, wore the white jumpsuits and everything, because even though we were voicing our concerns, they were really assuring us, I think it will really help to go through that baptismal experience. You'll feel the Heavenly Father.
Oh, they thought that you would feel it.
Yeah, that would help really clinch it.
The white jumpsuit would totally bring in.
Right. Well, and they all had these kind of personal stories of how this was such a huge moment for them when they were baptized. So they were hoping the same for us. And it's a tricky line that we walk because we pay. I'd like to think it's not lip service. We honestly believe that if something convinced us, or if the Heavenly Father did speak to us, well, then we'd just become a Mormon podcast, and talk about that all the time. And
that would be a right turn for your podcast.
Sure, I'd be cool with that if that's where the evidence led me.
Sure.
the evidence was Heavenly Father speaking to me. So, on one hand, I was totally open to that being true, but at the same time, I wasn't expecting it to be.
Yeah.
And I didn't have that feeling, and we had to be honest with them about that, so it was a little awkward.
Well, that was one of 2 times that you had people kind of find you out, so to speak, that they...
Oh, boy. Yeah, now, actually, it's been quite a few times, because the Mormons found out about our investigation, and we told them we'd done it for a podcast, and they listened to it. Mm-hmm. And actually, we got a lot of feedback. We heard through channels that the church didn't find it anti-Mormon.
Well, I think that's fair, that it was that, and what was the other one with the battery mountain climbing?
Yeah, the Atheist Society. That is the most notorious example of them finding out.
Yeah, I think... I mean, it's hard to... I kind of feel like that doing this, that, you know, I meet people who find out that I do this podcast, and, like, I feel like I stand by anything I say. Like, I don't think I necessarily trash people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and I feel like you can say the same thing, that, like, you don't come on, like, looking to bag on people. You're just coming to have the experience and be very honest about what you felt.
Right.
Which isn't necessarily... I don't know, it's tricky, but...
Certainly that's our aim, and...
But it's hard when you're faced with that, with, like, the person you're talking about.
Yeah, you're talking to a different audience, and even though you're behind what you say, if you were talking to them face-to-face, it would be a different conversation.
Of course it would.
Different starting point, you know, and you try to find common ground, work your way, and with our listeners, generally, we're kind of at a different starting point. So
you assume your listeners are like-minded.
So the Atheist Society, a small group of UFO... believers, they believe that this English gentleman was channeling masters from...
Very charming English gentleman.
From other... Oh, yes. From, yes, absolutely. Apparently. I guess you have to be. From other planets. And so, you know, it sounds pretty wild on the face of it, and they're used to hearing that. But yeah, we reported on our interactions with them. They knew about it immediately. They'd already looked our names up and found us out. And we tend to use our real names in almost all of our investigations.
Do you know how they got kind of turned on to the fact that you were probably from something else? Like, do you know what prompted them to
because I signed up for the newsletter and, you know, to become a friend of the Atheist Society. And so that included my real email address.
They just, like, Googled...
Yeah, and they Googled...
And it was like,
Googled us both right away and like, oh, they do a show. And they tell us that they didn't think that we were doing a show on them. But clearly they were checking to see if we were. So... make of that what you will. But yeah, their reaction was very negative, and then we invited them on the show, and they took us up on the offer, which was fascinating. It was quite a conversation.
Yeah, it was interesting.
And, you know, I thought it was great. We got all kinds of reactions to that show, which is good. People are talking. Totally different for our show, because it was this interview with the people we'd investigated, and they were really defending their point of view, and it was interesting to hear the arguments they used. And I think, you know, they made our point for us, I think.
Sure. If you had to go back and do it again, would you have done anything differently in terms of how you reported on them?
Yeah, and I remember in that episode, Carrie had kind of said we could have handled our first episode better, and I agree. If we did it differently, or again, rather, we might do it a little differently.
Like, do you think you would have tried to take them more seriously, or, like, been less lighthearted about them?
I mean, we don't... I mean, we don't spend too much time looking at the words we're saying and kind of analyzing them on the spot.
No, it's a conversation.
But I think generally, yeah, it really is. I think generally our humor hopefully comes from the situations we find ourselves in.
Yeah.
And in just the things that humans do, the variety of human experience, of religious experience, or alternative medicine experience, or whatever it is we're testing out. And we try not to make it at the expense of the people. Now, if it's someone who we feel is like a deliberate...
so it seems like you...
I'm trying to choose my words carefully. Someone like Teresa Caputo, you know, we will take to task a little more.
So there's a difference between the person who's leading a lot of people on, in your opinion, and the people who are being led on.
Right. So in the Atheist Society episode, we really took George King to task.
Sure.
He was the founder of that religion, and he's now deceased, and... you know, we felt he was fair game, but we tried to be respectful to the people themselves.
Yeah, I don't...
You know, and that's easy to do because we really did respect them. They were smart, nice people.
Well, because it's so much easier to say, like, all of those Mormons are all like this, instead of like this person I'm talking to every week or every month is like this.
And we've run into some rude people, some jerks, like the 9/11 truthers. We didn't like them as a group. I mean, and that's hard to say. Obviously, you can have nice conversations within that, but as a whole, that group was just kind of abrasive and mean.
Yeah. That was the one... For some reason, when I remember from that episode, it was somebody was trying to, like, refresh their menu, and they were doing it wrong, and it was... I don't know if it was you or Carrie, but it was just like... He was just fucking driving me crazy. He was doing it wrong. It was making me nuts.
It was probably me, yeah. Because, I use computers a lot, and it was some sort of really wasteful use of computer.
Their time.
And I was like, I could fix this for you, but I'll just stay here.
Do you have anything that you really want to investigate, but you either don't have the funds or don't have the time to commit to it?
Well, everybody always asks us about Scientology. They want us to do a Scientology episode. We want to do a Scientology episode.
Well, you're in the right part of the country for it, because I've seen...
We're in the perfect part of the country for it.
Yeah, like literally down the block. We can go now.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're free.
We just started an investigation this past Sunday, actually, and it was right next door to, like, the major Scientology building. And I've gone to a lot of Scientology events, and so has Carrie. Independently, we've been to various things.
For the podcast, or just in your life?
Because that's the kind of people we are. Yeah, way before we'd even thought of the podcast, I'd already gone to the, Author Services International building and
with
the
a
Elron.
specific goal, or you're just like, I want to see what these people are up to?
They put on a performance a few times. I've been there, and one time I finagled this fun behind-the-scenes tour of, like, their vault, like, where they show you how they preserve...
Where they have their stacks of gold?
Yeah, well, they show you, like, how they preserve L. Ron Hubbard's recordings on nickel-plated discs.
I was hoping you were going to say body, and I was so excited for a second.
Oh, that would have been fantastic.
Yeah.
No, I don't believe that's the case. That would make a great story. But, yeah, like, these nickel-plated audio...
records?
Yeah, records, yeah. They have, like, this thin... metal foil on top of them, so you peel them back like one of those cans that has I'm trying to think
sardine can?
Yeah, something like that.
Is this the 1940s? Why did I say sardine can?
No, that's a very good analogy. And then they have like these turntables that you can put the records on and play them back, and they're yeah, right. And they're hand cranked and solar powered. Because they're supposed to last for tens of thousands of years.
Oh, that's how we do all of these podcasts.
And survive post apocalypse.
Nickel.
Oh, good. You're going to burn it up.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's expensive, but it's worth it.
Nobody wants to lose this conversation. God forbid.
So yeah, we'd already been to a number of Scientology events, but yeah, we want to actually try to work our way up the bridge, and we should do it before they have photos of us posted, at every Scientology center, where they're like, you guys are not allowed. So, I don't know, again, that's one that would...
double down on donations.
It would take a lot of money. Yeah, but also if we try to do, fundraising, we can't, name, hey, we're doing a Scientology fundraiser, because then everybody, then word will get out.
Yeah, I mean, have you ever been able to do that? We want to do XYZ, but we need more money to do it?
Well, that's the first example that comes to mind.
Yeah.
There's other things that are really expensive, that we've passed up, that we would love to do, just because there were thousands of dollars, and our budget is kind of limited. Well, actually, I could say one that... No, I can't say one that we did do. Carrie would get mad at me.
It's fine, Carrie. We're cool.
There's a follow-up to one of our previous episodes.
Oh.
The exorcism one that involved a lot of money, and that's still in progress. So we have paid for some big-ticket items.
Yeah.
But there's other ones that, would either involve travel. Mm-hmm. So we just stick to Southern California unless we happen to be traveling for other reasons.
Sure.
And yeah, sometimes it'll just be a course where, this is $3,000. And I'm like, sorry. Well, there's other things we can do.
Was it you who did the Bigfoot one?
Yeah, I went to the Bigfoot Discovery Museum.
That was Northwest?
My hometown, Santa Cruz, California.
In Santa Cruz?
Uh-huh.
I don't... Have you ever gone out and you're like, what if I actually see a Bigfoot? What would I actually do right now?
Oh, I think about that all the time. I would love it. I would chase after him. Or her.
Thank you for being gender specific.
Yes. Trying to be inclusive here.
Yeah, we
of all Bigfoot feet.
That's great. So you said Mormon one is your favorite, but what about the one-off ones that you did, the psychic or palm reading, things like that? Did you ever have a moment that you're like, wait, I don't know, this person might be... Have you ever had, a close moment?
Oh, let me think. It seems like we've mentioned that before, where we've had maybe a psychic who was pretty perceptive.
Pretty in tune.
Might be our, white dove.
Yeah.
The proverbial.
Oh, wait, you know what? If you think of something, let me know. But you said you have done cold readings before for people?
Yeah.
Do you have a background in that?
No, it's just when I got into... Well, I mean, what constitutes a background in cold reading, one might ask?
I've done it before, I guess, as a background.
So, it was always something I was interested within skepticism, just when I learned those kind of Barnum statements. And so it's like having magic tricks handy. You want to be able to do it as just kind of a party trick. And so I'd memorize some of those generic things that you can say to a person. This is getting harder in the digital age, but still, I sense that you have a box of photos somewhere that you haven't organized.
Oh my God, I do.
Yeah?
It's in our... Yeah, we have... Mikey and I have a...
And of course, I need to commend that. Yes, you do.
Of course I do.
And...
it's my storage unit.
And then, you can add something on top of that. And Teresa Caputo's
There are embarrassing pictures in there.
Right, exactly. Oh, she missed an opportunity with this one woman where her daughter had passed away and she had the phone of the dead daughter. And I would have totally thrown in there, and there were some things in there that you saw that she was really hoping you wouldn't, or she's embarrassed about. She could have said that, and that would have been a great hit.
So tell me why you're not hitting the road as a psychic and making Teresa Caputo money and having Teresa Caputo hair.
Yeah. Well, I might still go for the Teresa Caputo hair.
Listen.
Well, I don't know. I don't feel any draw to that. Like that.
But do you ever think of that, as somebody who's a notable skeptic in certain circles? Don't you ever think listen, if all someone knows, oh, I found Jesus, guys, I found him.
Man,
I'm gonna write a book and I'm gonna go on tour. You could make $1 million.
I'll be honest. That idea has passed through my head. Not as oh, I should do this. This should be the plan for my life. But just wow, think how much they would embrace you. I mean, that's what happens with other people who have left atheism. I don't know if it's a good example, but Anthony Flew when he renounces atheism. That's a whole long story. Then immediately, the Christian's oh, this is great, and then you sell lots of books and get speaking engagements. So yeah, that would be a good way to retire.
Well, you have the one atheist who became a Christian, and then the bajillion Christians who became atheists.
Sure,
they don't get book deals.
Right, exactly.
Maybe we should give them book deals.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of books floating around.
Right.
But
well, what's your background? I probably should have led with this.
Oh yeah,
if I were good at my job.
I'm definitely a product of Christian culture. Was raised. I never would have claimed any particular denomination. I would have said, "Oh, I'm just a Bible-believing Christian."
But did you grew up going to a church?
In retrospect, now I can say I was raised in the Assemblies of God Church, which is very evangelical, Pentecostal, all about being filled with the Holy Spirit.
Speaking in tongues?
Yeah.
Oh, did you?
Only once. Yeah,
and?
Which is a great story. Okay. This is wild. I want to say 12, 11, something like that. I'd have to
Prime
look.
speaking in tongues age.
Yeah, totally. And it was this summer Christian camp. And if you've ever seen the film Jesus Camp,
yes,
it was that.
Horrifying.
Totally, it was that. And so I remember, for example, just to set the stage here, it was in Chico, California. We drove up for the weekend. And, my whole church at the time was involved, but my mom was there, my sister was there. And, for example, there was this speaker who had told us about how dangerous Hollywood media was. And so he'd called out certain films and kind of shamed anyone in the audience who'd watched Silence of the Lambs. And I remember when we got home...
Wait, why Silence of the Lambs?
Well, because it's horrible and dark and,
As opposed to the rest of the Hollywood
the
movies.
kind of things that you're filling yourself with, these, evil spirits really was kind of the implication there. So when we got home, my mom threw out my VHS copy of Aladdin. I was so mad about that because he played one clip from the film where the Sultan comes out and says, "Praise Allah," and that was enough to indict it. Oh, you shouldn't have this in your house. So yeah, I lost. Thankfully, I'd already memorized all the songs. Too late.
Gotcha, Mom.
Yeah, right. Take that. But okay. So anyway, so shoot forward to one of these praise sessions. They would bring in this group, and there's now a few of them who do this, but this was a group called Radical Reality, and they were led by...
Choice of words?
Yeah, right. Donnie Moore, he was the, chaplain of the Oakland A's or something like that, at least that's what he said, and they would do these feats of strength, and so they'd rip up telephone books.
It's a Festivus thing.
Yeah.
I think you're confused.
That's right. Yeah, this is Christianity for the rest of us. And so they'd roll up frying pans and they would set up these giant like stacks of bricks. And then they would make a really important point of saying, like, okay, well, there's 10 bricks here, but
this is the Jesus
stack.
stack.
You could. It's not like you just break 3 of them and the rest of them break. Look, you can break 5 and then it stops right there. You need strength, and so they show you Jesus. Can make you buff like them.
And
okay, so
buff like that.
Yeah, I guess that's the implication, That's like the ads making you think, oh, if I smoke these cigarettes, women will hang out with me.
Oh, yeah, that happened to me.
Oh, the attractive ones. Oh, really? And so anyway, so the leader of this, Donnie Moore, after they'd demonstrated their Christ-given powers, they had us all come up. They did an altar call. Come up if you want to be filled with the Holy Spirit. Well, yeah. I mean, I was really ardent Christian. This was a serious moment for me. So I rushed forward with, I want to say like 100 other people.
And Jesus.
And Jesus, sure. He was there, of course, right. And so we were all gathered together, and like everyone's lifting their hands and singing God, and some people are just like immediately going into speaking tongues, and it's hard for me. It's just not coming to me, and I'm kind of trying. And so they're telling us, we'll find a phrase and repeat it over and over. So I'm saying, I love you, Jesus. I love you, Jesus. I love you. It's like one of my investigations, but back when I was still actually believing this. And so I kept doing that for a long time, and still it wasn't working. I remember just kind of out of the corner of my eye, kind of seeing there were maybe 6 other people still standing, then 4 or whatever. And okay, don't focus on that. Just focus on Jesus. And so finally, Donnie Moore came by, big bulky guy, and he was going to help out whoever was having problems with this. And so he came by and he pushed me on the forehead, with the palm of his hand, pushed me backward, and people were there ready to catch me. They caught me, and I started speaking in tongues.
Trust fall.
I was just, it was a trust fall, and I was just babbling, and it was a euphoric experience. It was, it was a hot room, I think, and I'd been repeating this mantra, and I was lightheaded, and I was speaking in tongues. It was crazy. That's the only time I've done it.
Like, do you feel, I don't know, do you feel betrayed by that experience, or do you think it was sincere?
I do, and I can see why people would feel like, oh, this is a real deal. And so I think it's, a real phenomenon that you can kind of trigger. It's, it's nonsense, too. Yeah. People have tried to examine glossolalia and find, syntax or shared patterns.
And it turns out it's gibberish and almost never a real language.
Exactly,
people tend to
right, it's just
claim.
People kind of mimicking what they think a foreign language should sound like, or whatever comes naturally from
Did
their
you have
lips.
something specific that made you lose your faith?
Yeah. Well, it took a while. Shoot forward to college. I was studying animation, so I wasn't really in
Christian animation. But
Christian animation, that's right. So I wasn't in a lot of science classes. I didn't have any math classes. I'd skipped all those, prerequisites.
As a literature major, I don't know math.
Yeah. So I could have escaped unscathed. I was leading the Bible study group at the time.
Really? So you're way into college.
Yeah. So this is this is maybe third year college, and so I'm the president of Living in God's Hands Today.
Sure.
Light.
Who was
clever? There? Light. And so I'm leading prayer at the flagpole meetings and regular Bible studies. And so what started me was that one of my professors, Dr. Pack, was my botany and earth science teacher. He had
so you didn't take math, but you took earth science.
Yeah, it was...
You thought that'd be more...
Ecology, it was something like that. Now I can't even remember. Environmental studies, that was it. Now I remember. And botany from him as a teacher. And he had given us, as extra credit, you could go to these lectures and just kind of provide a written summary. And I had the highest grade in the class.
Whoa,
yes.
That's how you got a podcast.
But I thought, well, this sounds really interesting. And it was just random topics like, what's at the edge of the universe, or, the decline of the Y chromosome. I was like, I want to know about this stuff. So I was going to these lectures, and I went to every single one. This was the Skeptic Society, Michael Shermer's outfit in Pasadena, here in beautiful Pasadena. Yeah, that's how I got started. And so I went there for a year and a half, and I had my arms folded, and anytime someone would say something kind of derogatory towards Christianity or something about evolution, because I was a creationist, I would be muttering.
You're a creationist.
I was.
You're full-fledged.
I was taught from a Bob Jones university textbook.
Woof.
In high school. Yeah, right. And I remember having debates with friends in college, and I'd been taught all these ways to argue against evolution. So yeah, anyway, so I sat there, but I kept going back for a year and a half, and I was reading all these books, and eventually I just realized, wait a second, I really do honor truth, and that's important to me. Can I even evaluate the truth of God? And so, I had to have this protracted conversation in my head.
Did you have a moment, or was it sort of like...
I had a moment.
Yeah?
Yeah, I was driving...
Was it hard?
It was hard. It was really hard. And I was bummed out, because I wanted God to be real, and I was constantly talking to him, and finally, I was driving home one weekend back to Northern California, and I was like, I'm going to get to the bottom of this. I'm going to figure it out. So I'm driving by myself in the truck, and I'm having this conversation with God, saying, I want to know you if you're real, but I need more. And, this is over the course of many hours, but essentially I'm going to try looking at the world this way and, just be honest about these feelings. And I remember getting out of my truck to fill up with gas at one point, and it was a physical sensation. Like all of a sudden the sky just felt like thin, like it was this cosmic perspective of, you always hear like the thickness of the atmosphere is like, the width of an eggshell proportionally. And it was like, oh crap, it's just space up there. That's all there is. And I felt like I was going to fall off the planet or something. Ugh. And it was this almost sinking feeling in my stomach. But then ever afterward, it was a really liberating feeling. And I won't say I never looked back in that, I'm actually still part of the Christian community I was with at the time.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I run I help, administer their website and podcasts and stuff like that. And,
do they know you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And they're cool with it?
Yeah, I'm just the village atheist, and they're cool with it. Actually, they're great people. It's a Presbyterian church. But anyways, yeah, so I retain those roots, and I still read Christian books and listen to a lot of Christian music. And I kind of keep my ties there and very culturally have that influence still. I just stopped believing, haven't gone back.
Well, that's so interesting because there's a lot of talks about why religion is important. A lot of it has to do with the culture of it or the community of it. And you have managed to hold on to those ties without the kind of bullshit that goes with it.
Yeah, and that was important for me to not throw the baby out with the bathwater. I remember saying that phrase at the time, and I didn't want those friendships with people at the church to be contingent on just this one thing, that we disagreed on because we had so much else in common. Sure. So I've still maintained those friendships and try to. Do
you have any thoughts about the thing that's kind of getting bigger of the Sunday meetups or the Sunday...
Oh, Sunday Assembly?
Sunday Assembly type thing?
Yeah. I've definitely been going to the one here in Los Angeles.
Oh, yeah?
Actually hosted and co-hosted 3 of them.
Oh, we should go. I'm going to be here on Sunday.
Oh, are you? Oh, cool.
No, we're not going to be here on Sunday. When are we leaving? Oh, we're leaving Sunday morning.
Oh.
I could have been there.
Bummer.
That's too bad.
Well, they only do it once a month, so it's only this coming Sunday. But yeah, my buddy Brian Keith Dalton will be co-hosting this week. Sure. And we've co-hosted in the past, and it's fun. I think it's a good idea. The tricky thing for me is that my Sundays get pretty busy just with the podcast. Usually there's something going on that we want to do. And then, theoretically I could be going to my church. I haven't done that in a while. Or I could be going to a CFI lecture. There's so many things competing for my time on Sunday. So it's always a difficult day because I have to choose between 3 or 4 things I could do. Yeah.
It's interesting. And I know you have a son. Mm-hmm. Is he? I don't know how your wife believes. Are you? And obviously, if you don't want to talk about it, you don't have to. But are you giving him access to religion? Or are you trying to sort of push him towards science? What's your philosophy on?
Well, I lucked out in that my wife came over, with me to the disbelief side, and it didn't take that long. We just kind of talked about it, and she wasn't that gung-ho to begin with.
Sure.
I always wanted her to be a more ardent Christian, and then she kind of came over to my side, and...
Wait, so you started dating or were together when you were still Christian?
Yeah, we're high school sweethearts, so... we were already married, and our son was, maybe 3 by the time I, officially said...
Really?
I don't believe anymore.
Oh, that's kind of an interesting thing. And she, swung back with you?
Yeah, so midstream, I had to kind of reevaluate my parenting strategy. And I remember thinking, there was, this Christian song that was popular at the time. I'd hear it on K-Love radio, I want to be just like you, 'cause he wants to be just like me. And,
can you please keep singing forever?
Help me be a holy example for his innocent eyes to see. Help me be a living Bible, Lord, that my little boy can see or read. Yeah.
I love that song.
There you go.
Okay.
So, that was kind of my parenting philosophy up to that point. So I had to replace all those things.
You want to be a Bible he can read?
Now,
or see?
Yeah. One or the other.
And slasher.
And we've just kind of figured it out as we went along, but we're just honest with him.
Sure.
And so we talk about it a fair amount because I'm always looking into these things. So I tell him about what I'm looking into. We try to let him know about Christianity. We let his grandparents take him to church. I used to take him to church with me, actually.
Oh, really?
Even after I became an atheist. And then I started asking him when he got old enough, like, hey, do you want to go? Mm-hmm. And he would say, no, he'd rather stay and watch cartoons or play video games.
Smart kid.
Right. So, if anything, we kind of wish he had a better understanding of the Bible, because I think that'll pay off in life anyway. Yeah. And so I'm always trying to, communicate these lessons. And, he and I will read the Bible sometimes together, or, we read the whole Noah account, and then we went to watch the movie together, and we talked about it afterwards. So.
With the most recent Noah movie?
Yeah, the Darren Aronofsky one.
Did he like that movie? Because I hated it.
Oh, yeah? I had really mixed feelings about it. I think they should have called it Noah and the Partial Birth Abortion. That would have been a great title for it.
My fiance and I went to see it, and I went to see it, with the intention of, listen, clearly I don't believe this is based on a true story, but, it's kind of an interesting...
Yeah, sure. It was mythology, just like anything else.
I hated that movie so much.
Really?
It was 18 hours long. I don't know. I just didn't...
Well, I was upset because...
I can't imagine, a kid liking it, because...
He was interested, I think, especially just to see the comparisons with what we just read, because obviously so much is expanded upon, Tubal Cain stowing himself away on the boat. Uh-huh. I'm giving stuff away. Sorry, spoilers. Spoiler alert. And
we'll do spoilers.
The Nephilim, were these big rock creatures,
people.
and no, they were supposed to be giant. It was
the second Lord of the Rings movie. I've seen that movie.
Yeah,
it's a better movie.
Right, exactly. My overall impression was, there are things I liked about it.
And no, I wasn't crazy about it. Okay, well, let's see where we are in time. 30. Well. Went super long. Okay, so thank you so much for joining us. This is a lot of fun. We can find your podcast, Ona Ross and Carrie.
Yeah, at MaximumFun.org.
Right, and
then look for us there.
And OnRack, what's your website?
Oh, and then you can go to Facebook.com /OnRack.
Okay.
That's a good community where we post pictures and interact with everybody.
It's fun. I absolutely recommend people listen to Ona Ross and Carrie after they've listened to all of the backlog of the Friendly Atheist podcast. Ross, thank you so much for coming. This is a blast.
You're welcome.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the podcast for FriendlyAtheist.com. The music was composed by Brad Chagdis. If you like what you're hearing, please consider making a contribution at patreon.com/Hemant. That's He-Man T. We appreciate your support. And if you have any questions, feel free to email us at friendlyatheistpodcast@gmail.com. I'm Hemant Mehta.
And I'm Jessica Blumke. We hope you'll join us next time.